Well, good morning, everyone. Happy New Year. Really pleased to see all of you who are online and those that will watch the recording. We say Happy New Year and welcome to you. So today's masterclass is around the topic of purpose, and in particularly about living your purpose and living on purpose. And when you do, how you'll start to see the magic happen. And I think it's worth saying, I think all of you on this call know how passionately I believe that you all have a purpose, that there is a reason why you're here. I believe that you are God's perfect answer and solution to somebody else's problems and have been given a gift that you can use to help those people meet their unmet needs and wants. And I think, what the world really needs right now is more people to believe that they are here for a purpose. And this sounds slightly critical. It's not meant to, but it's just the language that comes to me. I think there is this sort of call going out across the planet now to those of us who know that we're called, that this is a time to step up and launch out. And so my hope is on this call that you will take something from it that will help you give your gifts more freely and more strategically to those people that you are here to serve. What do we mean by purpose? Well, I love the work of Stephen Covey, always have done. In his book called The Eighth Habit, he talks about purpose, there being four purposes to life. And I quite like that. And he says, number one, it's to live. That we get to choose the life we want to live. We get to determine who we want to be, what we want to do, what we want to create. We have freedom. We can be whoever we want to be. Now, I know if you're living in a dictatorial country, you may not feel you have that freedom, but the principle remains. He says the second purpose to life is to love. And I like that. All of us want to be seen and heard. We want to have people in our life that love us, accept us, that we have a place of belonging, a place of inclusion. And so life is all about connections and relationships. The third thing he says, the third purpose of life is to learn and grow. I think, we start with determining what is the life that we really want to live. And then we set goals that help us get there. But we all know once we set those goals, we run into this wall of pain and obstacles because we don't know how. We suddenly start being afraid. We don't have the knowledge and skills. And all of that requires us to grow, to learn new skills, to become the person we need to be in order to have the life that we want. And lastly, Covey talks about the fourth purpose in life is to contribute, is to give our gifts and to help others and to ultimately leave this planet in a better place in which we find it. Wouldn't that be amazing if we taught every child from an early age that you have a gift and one of your purposes in life is to leave your community, your home, your street, your planet in a little bit better shape than in which you found it. And Covey also suggests that there is a golden thread that unites all of these purposes, and it aligns with the work of Deepak Chopra very strongly and Wayne Dyer, who talk about this golden thread is joy. And Deepak Chopra will often say the purpose of life is joy. To live in such a way that it gives us joy, to find joy in our relationships, to find joy in our activities, and that we pursue goals so that we get joy. And those of us that have found our place of purpose, we know when we give our gift and our time and talent to others, we look at that, Sue, joy over perfection. Amen to that. That we experience this level of joy. But for the purposes of this call, when most of us talk about purpose, we are thinking about our contribution and about the work that we are here to give and to do. And not, some people might talk about our assignment. A lot of my Christian friends will talk about what is my God-given assignment. Others will talk about their mission, their life's work, their contribution. Natalia will often talk about her soul's purpose. I love that language. So I think we're probably all talking about the same thing, but using different language. What I'd like to do now is just have a straw poll. So I'd like you to put into the chat. So 2 questions. Do you know your purpose? And secondly, are you living your purpose? So you may say, yes, I'm living my purpose. Yes, I know my purpose. No, I don't. Or 50%. And then secondly, are you living your purpose? So pop that in the chat right now and let's have a quick straw poll. And I would like to say hi to Nona, I'm not sure how I'm pronouncing that. I love that. Sue says, yes, she knows her purpose. Yes, she's living it, but I want more of it. Greed is good. Wes is saying, yeah, he's 75% there in terms of knowing his purpose, but 5% there in terms of getting to live that purpose. Thanks for being very honest there. The mortgage gets in the way. Yeah. Maybe we should start a new group on how to change the world and pay our bills at the same time. Anybody else like to offer us their thoughts and opinions? Alex says she thinks she knows her purpose, but not 100% sure. And 75% there in living what I think my purpose. I think that's great. It's interesting, isn't it? That, well, we'll talk about that a little bit later. So please feel free to respond to that if you like, but we're going to carry on. So I'd like to, how able you? Not sure what that means. If you could add anything to that. Very cryptic today. How about you? I would say I am 100% certain on my purpose. And I think I am living my purpose. I'm living my purpose probably about 70% of the 70% of the time. And my goal is never to live out my purpose 100% of time, because I think I'm just setting myself up for failure. But my goal is, can I live my purpose 80% of the, 80% of the time? Because that gives me time to deal with, hey, I go on holiday. My purpose on holiday is pina coladas and grilled, grilled barbecues and the other thing. But let's talk about finding our purpose and living our purpose. I'd love to talk to you very randomly about the honeybee. And for those of you who are environmentalists, biologists, or beekeepers, please don't shoot me for anything that I get wrong. I have an O-level in biology, and so I'm drawing on very old memories. But we ask ourselves the question, does the honeybee have a purpose? Does she know she has a purpose? Is she living her purpose? Well, I'm not sure the honeybee gets out every morning knowing her purpose and trying to live on purpose. But what she does do is four things. Number one is she just loves to fly. She gets out that hive and she's soaring high, she's dive bombing, she's looping the loop, she's trying all these speed landings. Or maybe I'm just watching Mission Impossible. Um, and then she's number two, she's passionate about flowers. So she's flying all over the place, but she's thinking, wow, look at those red roses. I'll go over there. Look at those pink carnations. Look at that shrub. Look at that jasmine. And she's going from plant to plant, pursuing her passion. But in doing so, she understands that it's not about her. And what's really important to the honeybee, I believe, is this sense of a value of around community, that I am part of this hive and each of us have a unique role to play. We're supporting the queen, we're supporting the workers, and each of us has to do our part for the community to thrive and survive. But then she's also about contribution. She understands that life is not about just flying and smelling roses, but she has to go to these plants and collect nectar, and she wants to take it back to the hive. And I believe bees then vomit it up, lovely, and that then becomes honey and the fuel for the other bees to live. And so she goes out every day doing what she loves, pursuing her passion, working in contribution to others for the reasons that matter most to us. And when she does that, she actually releases her true purpose. And the true purpose of a honeybee is cross-pollination of plants uh, in the world. And as she does that, she is sustaining life on Earth, because all of those plants are breathing in our carbon dioxide and they're breathing out oxygen. So the honeybee doesn't know her purpose. And I don't think she's trying to live her purpose. But what she's trying to do is just pursue these four things. And as she does, her purpose happens. So what does that mean for us? Well, number one, I think it means you don't actually need to know your purpose. And a lot of suffering happens to us in the world when we think, I need to know my purpose. And if I don't know my purpose, then I'm struggling and I'm in pain and and I'm stuck in overthinking. But we don't actually need to know our purpose, but it can help. We don't often need to have a defined activity that says, if I do this, if I run my nonprofit, if I create jewelry, if I'm painting and creating, if I'm coaching kids in schools, then I am living my purpose. And if I'm not doing that, those activities, then maybe I'm not living my purpose. And so then we become obsessed on like, well, I have to know my purpose. My purpose is, you know, my purpose is unlocking potential in people that want to change the world. But then if I'm not doing that, or if I think I'm not doing that, it leads me to all this overthinking and I'm struggling again. Oh, so what have I learned from the honeybee, and what have I learned from 30 years of experience thinking and teaching around purpose? Number one, there are four things we need to know about ourselves. Number one is we need to understand our gifts and talents. And we're going to talk more about this on other calls. But we have to understand what it is that we love to do and are good at, or we have the potential to become good at. And this is a difference from skills. Skills are purely things that we are good at. we don't necessarily enjoy. And some of us are motivated and have vocational preference around working with our hands, with people, with information, with ideas, solving problems, that we're all good at these kinds of things. So I know Alexandra has this incredible talent on listening with presence. And as she does so, you feel this warm invitation to talk about the things that are bothering you, that you're struggling with. And you feel this red carpet gets rolled out and this invitation to just pour out your heart. And she listens without judgment. And she has this smile. And at the end of it, you feel, oh, wow, I feel a bit lighter and I feel a bit happier and I feel better about myself. Sue has this amazing gift of, of painting and designing and printing, but communicating messages that challenge our opinions and our behavior and cause us to smile and laugh or cry. And occasionally her work pisses me off. I'm like, that's a bit aggressive. But I think she quite likes it when she gets that response because she's challenging our behaviors. Wes has this incredible ability to come alongside you and make you believe you can do it. And he will walk with you or run with you until you get there. So there's also something we're really good at. The second thing we have to understand is what are our passions? Now, this word passions, you either love it or you hate it. I'm a lover of the word passion, but what does it really mean? Passion, I believe, is that God-given desire, that internal drive to give your gifts and talents, your time and your energy towards the things that matter most to you. So we need to understand what motivates me? What am I driven to give my time and my talent and energy towards? Bruce Bugby in his book talks about three core passions. One is we have a passion for people. You all know I have a passion for people. I love people. I want to be with people. I want to help people. Secondly, he says people have a problem for causes. Sue has a passion towards causes, that there are problems in the world that they want to solve, or there are subjects. And lastly, there are passions for activities, that there are certain things that we want to do. And what I would say is we discover that it's, for some of us, we have this one core driving passion, motivation, but for most of us, we have a combination of those three. So I am predominantly driven around people or around causes, this sense that people have a gift and a calling, and I want to unlock. My activity is the unlocking, and the people is people that want to do good in the world. So I find that's where I want to give myself to. So we have to understand that. Thirdly, we have to understand what is really important to us in life, our values. We have to understand what matters most to us, because purpose flows from values. And lastly, we have to understand what is the unique contribution that we are trying to make, be it consciously or unconsciously, when we're giving our talents, gifts and talents in the area of our passions. There is always an outcome that we are trying to create, an intention. For me, it's always unlocking that potential. It's always encouraging people. It's helping them solve their problems. It's giving them wisdom and guidance. And so when we have these four things about ourselves, it creates a frame. And we understand when we give our energy, when we're involved in activities that bring together everything within that frame, we are living our purpose. We are living on purpose. So you could be making a cup of tea for your partner, your parent, your child, for a friend, because you could be knowing they're having a tough time and you're just listening to them. You give them a biscuit and you're just listening, and you may think your purpose is something else, but when you are doing the things that matter to you within this framework, you are living on purpose. And like the bee, the honeybee, the impact you're making always happens at right angles to the things that you do. And this is the crazy thing. We never will really know what is the impact we've made on the lives of others. I remember walking on the streets of Poland once with some friends. We were there doing some workshops, and these three, I guess, undergraduate level ladies approached me, and she went, "You're Neil Prem, aren't you?" I'm like, "Yes." And she says, "You may not remember me, but I think 5 or 6 years ago, you spoke at my school and you said this, this, and this, and it changed my life. I've never met her. She was in the room. I never recognized her face. I did not know she was there. But she, so we never quite know. So Sue will love this. This framework really is a canvas. Your life is a canvas. But if we understand the framework of the canvas, our talents, our passions, our contribution, and our values, and we give ourselves to that, we can paint on there whatever we want. We can draw, we can create, we can determine anything we want. It's not about the specificity of the activities. It's about when we're giving our energy within this framework, when we are painting on our life's canvas, we are living on purpose, and our true impact is happening at right angles to what we are doing. And I think the key here is to focus that we are intentionally trying to live on purpose 80% or more of the time. Because I think if you try to do it 100%, you are going to get frustrated. You are going to get stuck in your head. You're going to beat yourself up. But if we just see every day as an opportunity to give our energy towards these four things and to follow our curiosity, to follow our bliss, to do things that are adventurous, and we never quite know what the results happen. So lastly, I'm just going to finish on, and this will become the subject of a workshop. How do we find out these four things? How do we find out what we're good at? How do we find our passions? How do we determine our values? How do we understand, who are the people problems? What is the contribution that we are trying to be making? Well, I've discovered there are three kind of ways. One, you get a blank sheet of paper, you go into the lotus position, you meditate, and you trust that God, the universe, will download this to you, and you've found enlightenment. My experience is it's very, very difficult to get that. It's very, very difficult to just start with a blank sheet of paper and hope to intuit it. The second thing is you can do online tests, and they have a lot of value. But the third way is to recognize there have already been many times in your life when you have been living on purpose, when you have been within the framework, pouring out your energy onto this canvas, and you didn't know it. So the key thing is to practice what we call story listening. And we begin to create a timeline of our life. And if we imagine the timeline, is going up and down throughout our life, and above the line, we are identifying those times in our life when we were doing what we loved, let me step back from that. We were engaged in activities where three things were there. Number one, we loved and enjoyed what we were doing. We were really energized from our activities. And three, we would look forward to doing those activities, and we look forward to doing them again. We can also add a fourth thing to that. When was I just really happy? When did I feel this was the most important things to me? So we practice story listening, and we identify these times. And so I will, I talked about that girl in Poland. And so I was at that school, and I remember that school, and I was just talking about this sense that God has a plan for your life, that you're here for a purpose, you've got a gift. And I just believe, God is wanting to awaken and activate your gifts and talents. And if that's you, I'd love to just pray for you. And, several hundred of these kids responded to that. And so for me, that was one of those times in my life. And so I list these times, and then we play detective. So what was I doing? Who was I working with? What problems was I solving? What subjects was I using? What outcomes was I trying to make? Why was this important to me? And every time we do that, we're just creating pieces of the jigsaw puzzle. And my experience is when we found 7 of these times in our life, we have enough information to identify all of the pieces of the jigsaw and to begin to create our framework. And in another masterclass or workshop, we'll talk about our storyline below the line. So above the line, these are all our positive moments in life. And below the line are really the negative times in our life. Be those trauma with a big T, or trauma with a little t, or just annoyances. But these are these times in our life when something happened to us, was said to us, something we experienced, in which we began to think something about ourselves. We then created a belief around that. We then begin to reject parts of ourselves, and this becomes part of our human operating system. And so it's equally important to understand what are the things we believe about ourselves. When stuff happens to us, how do we react? And all of this stuff holds us back from living our purpose with courage and curiosity, because we're always worried, is this really what I'm meant to do? What will other people think? Can I pay the bills? Children never really suffer with that. They just do what they love, and they live that way. So let me pause there, and I would like to invite you to unmute and to offer any thoughts and insights, any questions, any comments. Preferably don't troll me live online, but if you feel you have to, I'm up for it.
I just want to say thank you, Neil, because this is so helpful and really speaks to me. And I think it's helping to clarify certain things that have been going on in my head. So this group is such an anchor for me, and knowing that I will commit to it. I can't guarantee I'll be there every session, but as much as I can, I think is going to help me enormously. So I just want to, and then therefore help people I I serve and my team and those around me. So I just want to thank you. It's really, really speaks to me. And I just want to show you the cover of my book because actually Reconnected was inspired by we said bumblebees, not honeybees, inspired by bumblebees because of the cross-pollination and because of the idea of flourishing and this idea of linking nature to human flourishing and human potential and human growth, being a part of, the world and nature and so on. So I love bumblebees. Anyway, that's enough from me. It's just really an affirmation and a thank you.
You're welcome.
And actually this morning as well, I was realizing I was just sitting in my cup of tea this morning overlooking the window, the kind of the view outside, and just when you've got a moment aside from the busy world to just sit and just reflect, but also just to be grateful. Now, people say, oh, power of gratitude is great, it brings more blessings, but you have to just give yourself the time, process, and remember those things. And I think all the when you acknowledge the blessings in your life, it fills up your heart. I mean, we all know this, but I just had a moment earlier today and just thought, wow, thank you. Anyway, that's enough for me. I just thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks, Alex. Quick straw poll. Which of those 4 areas, talents, passion, values, contribution, expression, is the area that you would value, that you want to know more about for yourself right now? That if we could as a group help you get more in touch, discover that, what would help you? Could you pop that in the chat? So Sue's talking about contribution. Yulia, talents and contribution. Anybody else? What would that give you? So Alex is talking about intention, outcome, therefore contribution. So we're seeing a lot around contribution. Could somebody, thank you, talent and contribution. So would somebody like to tell me about what they mean by contribution for them? What is it that, because contribution is just a word, but what does it mean for you? What would that look like if we could help you understand your contribution? How would you know you had it? What would that mean for you?
For me at the moment, Neil, where I am in my journey, it's the contribute, where some coaching on contribution would be really helpful and input from others, is actually very practical. So I know where my passions and values are, like I said, because we've done the one-to-one coaching and because I've been working on that and getting there. But it at the moment, how my contribution can manifests itself in a really practical, physical way. Like I've got a dream in my head about having a community art space, but am I barking up the wrong tree because of where we're located in the country, rent prices, that kind of thing? Can my contribution come in another form that I haven't thought of?
Thank you. So I'm hearing a couple of things there. One is about ideation. You know, are there other ways? So I have this idea of a community art space in Cambridge, but could there be other things that would allow me to live purposely, but I'm not sure what they are? And then the second thing there was about the limitations you're experiencing. And, you know, I've worked with enough artists in Cambridge to understand there's very little available space and there's even less affordable space. You know, so...
Yeah, ain't that the truth?
So here's an immediate thought. Start where you are, use what you have, do what you can. So you'll probably, some of you on the call will know of a great friend of mine, Marina Poliaris, who started acting now and is now called Theatre of Yes. And she was doing acting workshops, and then COVID came. And her whole business model died overnight. And she thought, you know what? Let's try and teach people how to act, and let's run full-blown productions on Zoom. And she did it. And business was booming, and it was the launch pad to everything else. So when we're thinking of starting, there are always bigger ideas, there are always better ideas, always. But at some point you have to go, this idea is good enough for now. What can I, you know, starting where I have, using what I have, what can I do today? Alex, I'll come back to you in a second because I think, Nona, you wanted to say something, and please, can you tell me how to pronounce your name?
It's just Nona, as
Nona.
you said, right? So I thought contribution means to me, I think also giving something. I mean, giving something back or giving something that changes maybe, I don't know, the world a bit of people, or I don't know, community or anything. So I think since I'm also just starting now, trying to build up a jewelry business. I mean, that's one thing that I really love doing, and certainly I need to sell it also, but just something that maybe comes with that parallel that could also give something more, also even more, also giving and more like without money or something, just something that is on a creative base that gives something where I feel it has more purpose than just making a living out of it. So I think it doesn't even have to be maybe the jewelry itself, it can be something parallel, but definitely that is something that I just also feel inside of me calls for maybe not only that purpose of me satisfying my own kind of joy, just also giving them something. I think then it would maybe round up and be more even. Yeah, but it's a lot of, it's just in the process also, everything right now. So yeah.
Thank you very much. A few things on that. Number one, I know you're Cambridge based, so I'd love to have a coffee with you. I've worked with a lot of jewelry makers and helped them increase their sales. So, and I'm funded to be able to help with that. So we can have a conversation with that.
Thank you.
But hearing what you said, it raises a really interesting question. Do we have to be doing the work we're meant to do and get paid for it all of the time? And I think there are really three ways of looking at that. In an ideal scenario, maybe we would. We're doing the work we love and are meant to do full time and getting paid for it. But those of us that do that know it's a painful and rocky road. We've got to balance this sense of creativity versus getting paid. And sometimes what we really love to do is difficult to get paid for. Then there's the other side of things, is that we have a job, you know, we work in the bank, we work in Tesco's, and we have something we do 2 or 3 hours a week, and that brings us joy. And Wes on the call, he and I are very good friends with a really dynamic guy called Stu, who was basically working in a job he didn't like, but started a football club on Saturday morning for the kids on the local estate. Began to, you know, just a couple of hours, took some biscuits, took some footballs, and then eventually got some sponsorship from a couple of football teams, began to train these kids, and then 20 years later, he's now running an international charity. So I think, yeah, you can be full-time, but you can just be, hey, I have this job, but I'm pursuing this on the side. And then there are others, I know there's some on the call that are like 50-50. Hey, I'm spending half my time doing this and half my time doing that. Whatever works for you is okay. We have to reject this idea that we have to be 100% in this 100% of the time, because I think that's unrealistic. And I've heard it too many times, when people turn their passion into businesses, it stops being a passion. Here's another thought. Over the last few months, I've been volunteering at a food hub, and it has become the most exciting and look forward to time of my week. There's 2 hours every Wednesday afternoon. I get to talk to the same people. I'm building life with them. There's a 91-year-old lady there. She always wants to see pictures of my grandson. We're laughing, we're having fun, and I'm absolutely loving it. And I feel I'm making a contribution. But my encouragement to everyone on the call is to think of 1 to 3 people who are behind or below where you are, and to build relationships with them and try and help them. Try and help them. But then I would also encourage you to think of 1 to 3 people who are on your level. So other artists, other jewelry makers, other non-profit leaders, whatever it is, and begin to help each other in that. And then the third thing, and I'd have to confess, I'm not so, I've neglected this in recent years, but who are the 1 to 3 people who are beyond where you're at? And how can you volunteer and help them with their goals? So I think when we contribute to those 3 types of people, it gives us a number of things. Number one, it gives us profound joy, assuming it's within the framework and the triangle. Number two, it helps us build our network. It helps us build relationships with people that will reciprocate to us. Maybe some never will. And thirdly, it allows us to be developing our skills and knowledge, testing our ideas, moving forward with things. Yet those of you know me know for many years I do motivational speaking in schools. I've only ever been paid once for it, but I just love it. Could I make money doing that? Probably. But do I want to? No, I don't. It feels like that's going to be hard work to find that money. I'd much rather just work with a few schools that kind of like me, know I'm a bit wacky, bring me in from time to time. I get a great time. They give me a cheese sandwich and a can of Diet Coke, and we're all happy. Yeah. Alex, you'd put your hand up a little while ago.
Oh, hello. Yeah, just in response to Sue, it just made me think about this idea of having a space, because years ago I had this dream that I wanted to set up kind of almost healing spaces around the country. And, it would be filled with statues of, I'm Catholic, statues of Our Lady, and lots of flowers and music and lots of light. And it would be a place for people to come and talk, or, for the elderly to come as a space for them to be less alone and do activities together and arts and crafts. And there'd be lots of quotes and pictures on the walls, and it would be very much a kind of almost a haven. But I was like, A, I don't have lots of property around the country. B, actually managing a property is a lot. So all building, plumbing, the loo breaks, etc., etc. And it just became this dream that I had, that I was very passionate about, just seemed to be slipping further and further away. And then, but because I was so I had it so clearly in my head, I visualized it so clearly. Lo and behold, maybe a year or so ago, a few months ago, I started to reflect and think about, oh my goodness, I'm achieving that, but in my own home. Now, I'm not saying that you be a community arts business in your own home. I don't, your setup also, whatever. But for me, what I've done is I've started to, as I've set up a charity, I've needed income. So I've rented out my flat, not my room. I've got a 2-bed flat, just the spare room, and the rest of the space I leave, go live with my mum and my boyfriend. And my flat is filled with flowers, pictures, quotes, statues of Our Lady, music. It's got big windows, and I suddenly had this realization that I've achieved this, but in a different way, how I anticipated. And it brought me such joy to realize I'd achieved that. And it's given me an income. It's helped sustain my life, more so than having properties throughout the country to put me into this enormous debt. And has given me a lot of joy in sharing my space with others. And I find my space, my flat, is a haven. People have described it as a haven. It's a safe space for me. It's a healing space. It's a place where I pray. And just finally, to kind of give you an example, I had this lady who I've had a number of various people who've come to sort of want to stay, to kind of get away from the busy world, etc. Because I'm in London, but it's in Putney, it's near the river, and just a bit further out, lots of green around here. And she's coming to recover at my flat from an operation that she's having. So she's coming to have respite here. And I thought, oh my gosh, that's almost the culmination of my dream, that actually now I've got a lady coming deliberately to here to heal. And I just thought, I guess the reason why I'm saying it, because it struck me, because I had this sort of real itch and desire to do this. And sounds like, Sue, you've got this real passion. And I think for me, what helped was visualization. And in my heart, I had this desire. And then lo and behold, it just happened without even me kind of thinking about it. It just happened.
Amazing.
I did obviously think about it, and I did put it in. I had to obviously set up the Airbnb account, and I've had to get reviews and blah blah blah. But I think if you've got a desire and passion that's strong enough, it will happen, and may happen in ways that you don't expect, and the outcome may be better than you anticipate, which is what
thanks, Alex.
So just wanted to share that.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, you're the second person that said, yeah, don't get too caught up when you're thinking about it. Don't get too caught up in the practicalities of it. Just keep holding on to exactly what you did, and keep holding on to it. Talk to everybody and be open to what may come up.
Thank you. I heard a sense of 3 things there. Number 1 is own your dreams, own them. this is something that I want. This is something that is important to me, but I don't know how I'm going to get from where I am to there, or there are obstacles in the way. But don't give up, own the dream. Number two, as Alex found out, hey, you know, I don't have a big building, but I have a home. And I will start where I am, I'll use what I have, and I will do what I can. And then thirdly, I would say, and this is often what comes through on Wednesdays, is about then trusting and following our intuition. Rather than, and I know you don't do it, but human nature is like, oh, I can't, how will I, this is too much. We just calm ourselves down and we slow down and we just pause and we listen to our intuition. What is it that we need to do next? And sometimes it's random, but it is the key to everything. And so my encouragement, if you have a big dream, own it. Start where you are, use what you have, do what you can today. And there is a spiritual reason for that, because when we start where we are, use what we have and do what we can, we're demonstrating to the divine, to the universe, that we're committed to this. And when we do that, we prove ourselves faithful and we're trustworthy. And then as a result, we get given more. But if we kind of sat on the sidelines going, well, you know, as Alex could have done, well, I'm believing this, but until somebody gives me a beautiful retreat center in the Lake District, I can't do anything about it. And she's like, well, no, actually, I've got this flat. You know, I've got some candles. I can create a therapeutic space. But what I would say is that Alex is the healing space, not the flat in Putney, as nice as that may be. Alex is the healing space. But she did what she could. And we need to understand when we do that, it's like the universe is watching us and going, aha, okay, this person's faithful. This person will get going. I can trust this person. Let me give them more. Let me bring somebody into their life. Maybe let's open doors for them. But it's about then lastly following our intuition. It is about listening and doing the things. You know, one day I felt called to contact the head of a school in just outside of Cambridge. Said, hey, you know, been doing these workshops on careers. Can we have a chat? And he said, sure. Went and saw him. Oh no, he replied back to me and said, no, actually, we're not interested in that. We, as a school, we have some really good careers advisors. We think we're really good at it. But what I am, and I was like, great. What else are you interested in helping your young people? And he said, I want them to leave here feeling confident that they can be, do, and have anything they want in the world. And I said, well, that's what I want. So we had a coffee. We chatted. Out of that came this sense of a 30-day challenge. We did that first there. Then as a result of that, we were then able to go and do it in other places, in other universities. We got to do it in councils. We got to do it in companies. I eventually ended up doing it in Google. And then as a result of all of that, got an invitation down to Downing Street to talk about these things. But it all started with the sense of, you know what? I feel I should reach out to this school. I cycle past it most days on my ride, and I just thought I should reach out. So, own your dream, do what you can, follow your intuition, don't give up. Wow, that feels like a sermon in its own self, doesn't it? Let me just end the recording.